thought, well, maybe if you had called for a permit, you would have gotten a little bit better warning.
It was May 22nd, 2010. I was at a remote location in the North Main woods at one of our facilities and received a call from dispatch indicating that there was a fire in Roe Lake. Upon arrival at this location, I found one structure completely engulfed, the second structure well underway, a woodshed here halfway burnt anyway, and a third structure just starting. It was spreading pretty rapidly, just structure to structure, and I kept thinking at that time and after, what could I have done differently? What could I have done to stop, at least save that last camp from burning? And tactically, I can't think of one thing that I could have done differently, except come and speak to Mr. Johnston beforehand. Give him some common sense, inexpensive things that he could have done about defensible space. This whole thing could have been avoided.
I went to the fire pit, and of course it hadn't been used since last fall. I decided to build a very small fire. I was concerned that, obviously concerned about the fire, but I was also thinking that because the fire was so small that it might not stay going that well. So I decided that when I went back to mowing that I would just take 2 trips and then come back and check the fire again. So when I turned the mower off that 3rd time, that's when I saw the smoke, and the smoke was, coming up it was kind of behind the cabin. So I ran over, and that's when I discovered the kind of V of flame that was kind of like about 8 feet on one side and 10 feet on the other. And it was approaching cabin 1 very rapidly. As a matter of fact, some of the flames had gotten under the log a little bit. I immediately started stamping on it, or stomping it out, trying to. And I seemed to be able to get it out, but then it would just flare back up. So I grabbed the bucket, went and got some water. When I got back from, when I got back with the first trip, the fire had advanced some, and it was getting very close to the back corner of the camp. I poured the water on and did my best, but then, before long it had advanced into the woods, and my concern shifted from the camp to the woods.
Unfortunately, this is not a unique situation in Maine's nearly 10 million acres of unorganized territory. Further complicating fire suppression efforts in unorganized territory is the changing complexion of development. Where once small camps dotting the UT landscape were common, now primary and second homes worth hundreds of thousands of dollars are becoming more prevalent. This trend has greatly increased the values at risk in the UT and puts increasing pressure on the Maine Forest Service to provide not only forest fire protection in the UT, but be the primary provider of structural fire protection and suppression as well. Homeowners in the UT must take action to protect their homes from wildfire. Expecting the Maine Forest Service to respond to in the same manner in which a local fire company would is unrealistic, given the vast area of the unorganized territory.
The Wildland-Urban Interface is the area where the homes meet the forest, and is very difficult for both wildland and structural firefighters to fight wildfires. We learn that homes can be threatened by wildfires in 3 ways: direct exposure from flames, indirect exposure from radiant heat, airborne firebrands or embers. Most of these threats to your home can be avoided by creating and maintaining adequate defensible space. This video is designed to help both camp owners and homeowners understand the concept of defensible space and hopefully use it to reduce the threat of wildfire near their homes. We are also going to take this opportunity to help people who live and recreate in Maine learn about the daily Forest Fire Danger Report and some other advice about preventing wildfires. Our goal is to inform people and hopefully reduce the amount of structures, injuries, and natural resources lost due to wildfires in Maine.
First of all, let's define defensible space. Defensible space is the area around a structure where fuels and vegetation are removed, replaced, or reduced to slow the spread of wildfire towards the structure. Good defensible space reduces the intensity of a wildfire as well as the amount of flammable materials that could carry a fire either to the structure or, in some cases, transfer a wildfire from one structure to another. If this defensible space has been created properly and is well maintained, the risk of a structure being lost to wildfire is greatly reduced. In some cases, adequate defensible space could allow your home to survive a wildfire without any assistance from firefighters.
While the concept of defensible space is not necessarily difficult to understand, there are several misconceptions about defensible space. Some people think defensible space is not necessary because the fire department will protect my house. While this may be true in an urban setting, it certainly is more difficult in most of Maine, which is considered rural.
If a large wildfire occurs in Maine, it won't take long for local fire departments to become overwhelmed.
There simply aren't enough firefighters to deal with both structural and wildland fires when a large, wind-driven wildfire occurs. All the more reason for homeowners to learn how to create and maintain their defensible space around their homes.
Other misconceptions about defensible space include the idea that all vegetation around their house will need to be removed to make it fireproof from a wildfire. If done properly, you can still have some vegetation around your home to maintain the privacy and rustic feel many of us desire.
With our knowledge and experience in landscaping, we're also able to assist people in purchasing fire-resistant plants and locating them around the property. Here's an example of a fire-resistant plant, and I really like it. Its name is common witch hazel. It's got nice red leaves that come out, turn deep green, yellow flowers in October. It's also recommended by the Maine Forest Service and unlikely to burn in the event of a wildfire.
If you are a do-it-yourself landscaper and are interested in creating a fire-resistant landscape around your home, please check our website for a list of native plants that are resistant to fire.
Some homeowners think that just because they live near the water, they don't have to be concerned with the threat of wildfire. This is not true, and as you heard earlier, devastating fires still occur close to the water. While we are talking about living near the water, we should also mention that the Maine Forest Service recommendations about defensible space do not overrule the Department of Environmental Protection's shoreland zoning laws. Please check with your local code enforcement officer or state environmental agency before removing any vegetation within the shoreland zone.
We should also define fuels, because there's been some confusion around this term as well. Fuels in this context are defined simply as all types of combustible vegetation that can be consumed by fire and release energy. Additionally, fuels can be made of dead, woody material on the ground and processed wood used in wood fences, wood decks, and nearby outbuildings. Some experts even consider your home as a fuel, because if it becomes fully engulfed with flames, it can spread fire to other camps or homes.
One issue we had here on this incident was these fine fuels. And these fine fuels of either leaves or needles in this case just offers a real good opportunity for fire to spread from camp to camp. What we had here, and it's typical of this area, these camps were suspended above the ground with that accumulation of leaf litter and needles and so forth. It was inviting the opportunity for fire to get underneath there and spread rapidly up through the structure.
Getting back to defensible space, let's take a few minutes to go over the 3 R's for defensible space. They are removal, taking away flammable vegetation altogether. In some cases, entire trees and shrubs would need to be removed from the home ignition zone. Reduction, fuel reduction, minimizing the amount of fuels near the home. This method could involve pruning trees and removing overhanging limbs. Replacement, replacing flammable vegetation with fire-resistant plants. An example of this would be to remove a small stand of softwood trees and replace them with a well-watered flower bed surrounded by rocks or bricks. A lot of this information on defensible space came from the National Fire Protection Association's FireWise program, which can be found by visiting www.firewise.org. This nationally recognized program helps homeowners learn how to keep their homes safe from wildfire and is often used in conjunction with the Maine Forest Service's Defensible Space Chipping Program to reduce forest fuels near homes. The process to become a FireWise Community USA is not that difficult and is a collaborative effort between homeowners, the local fire department, and the Maine Forest Service. However, it requires a certain amount of volunteer work to maintain FireWise status. Maine currently has several FireWise communities and is working on several others. Besides talking to a forest ranger or checking the internet about FireWise, there are other experts who can help you reduce the risk of your home being burned by a wildfire.
Of course, how resistant a plant is to fire depends on a lot of factors, including the weather and the dryness of the fuels.
I've been coming here for 20 years, and I know that in the spring, that's a very high risk of fire, and I know that there was, lots of litter about, and that I hadn't had a chance to, clean it up for the year. And, certainly there were warnings, the gusts of wind. I didn't happen to notice, when I came through the gate what the fire danger was, but I presume that it was high.
Did you know that the Maine Forest Service issues the predicted class day every morning from March through October? This system is based on the National Fire Danger Rating System, which was developed by the U.S. Forest Service in the early 1960s. You may have seen a Smokey Bear sign like this one that shows the fire danger rating. The class day is based on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being low and 5 being extreme. The goal of the fire danger forecast is to inform fire service personnel the likelihood of a fire escaping during a 24-hour period. It is based on local weather predictions as well as precise measurements of the dryness of the forest fuels. Forest rangers, fire chiefs, and town fire wardens use the class day information to make decisions on whether to issue burn permits and where to allocate wildland fire resources, such as personnel and firefighting equipment. The predicted class day can be found by checking the Maine Forest Service website at www.mainforestservice.gov and by selecting the Forest Fire Danger Report. As a homeowner or a person who recreates in Maine, you can also use this information to decide whether it's worth taking the risk of having a fire.
I thought, well, maybe if you had called for a permit, you would have gotten a little bit better warning, and that would have kept you from doing it.
Remember, the person who starts the fire is legally responsible if it should escape. In most cases, you will need to obtain a burn permit before burning. The person issuing the burn permit should be familiar with the predicted class day. Also, please keep in mind that these predicted class days are only guidelines.
In my experience working as a forest ranger for the Maine Forest Service for 18 years, I've seen many wildfires start on Class Day 2 and even Class 1 days. Just because the fire danger is low or moderate doesn't mean that the potential for a wildfire doesn't exist. In the afternoon, when the temperatures rise and the relative humidity drops, all you need is a brisk wind, some forest fuels, and an ignition source, and you've got a wildfire. These ignition sources could range from an escaped debris burn to a child playing with a lighter. That's why we recommend conducting debris burns after 5 p.m., when the wind has died down and the relative humidity has started to increase.
In Maine and other areas, there is also a strong cultural desire to have a campfire or to burn brush piles. We all enjoy the ambience a campfire creates, but as we learned earlier in the video, they can also cause a lot of damage and destruction.
The fire pit that I used, that I intended to use to cook my ribeye steak that actually caused the fire, I was up here alone about 4 or 5 years ago. I had a bunch of bricks and I decided to put that together so I would have what I thought then was a safe place to build a fire. In retrospect, the proximity to the camp, the fact that it didn't have, that it didn't have some stone or something on the hearth area was a poor choice.
If you do have a campfire in your backyard or at your camp, please follow these tips to avoid any problems. Use non-combustible material such as rocks, bricks, or steel to contain your fire. Clear all vegetation within 10 feet of the campfire ring. This means the top layer of the soil has been cleared away, and you've got non-combustible material such as sand or gravel surrounding the fire. Prune all overhanging branches so they can't ignite and carry the fire into the crown of nearby trees. Always have an adequate water source and hand tools nearby. Check with local fire officials and obtain a burn permit if required. Keep your fire small and easy to control. No wood should be allowed to burn outside of the fire ring. Make sure the fire is completely out before leaving the area.
A lot of times when we're looking at structure fires, and any wildland firefighter will tell you, it's generally not this big fire front that comes rolling in that just burns everything down. It's the little fires. It's a small spark that lands at the right location, and it just starts consuming structures.
When the camps burned, I was worried about the forest, But now I'm thinking that, when I rebuild, that, there could be a real forest fire sometime, and I want to preserve the camps. I would lean towards rebuilding in the field unless I could have, a clear 60 to 80 foot defensible zone between me and the woods that I can keep clear of litter very easily so that I protect the camps from a forest fire if there is one.
On a similar but larger scale, Maine's forest rangers often get inquiries from homeowners wanting to know how much area they should clear to protect their homes from wildfires. In general, a minimum of 30 feet of defensible space will help protect your home from wildfire. But other factors such as slope, type of vegetation, and wind speed and direction will require more distance. Our training and experience in wildfire suppression refers to these as the three components of the fire environment: weather, fuels, and topography. You certainly don't have to clear all the vegetation around your home or camp to make it safe from wildfire. One method is to simply break up the vegetation so it's not contiguous. Rather than having a row of softwood trees connecting your home to a forested area, simply break it into 4 or 5 small islands or pockets of fuel. In general, a fire break should be 1.5 times the height of vegetation on level ground. In some cases, where the slope is steep, more defensible space is required to reduce the risk of a wildfire near the home.
If vegetation is properly modified and maintained, it can do the following to help your home survive a wildfire: slow the rate of spread, reduce the flame length and the amount of radiant heat produced by the fires. All these factors buy you time before the firefighters arrive and make it easier for them to defend your home from the approaching wildfire.
To clarify, both dead vegetation and live vegetation need to be considered as fuels that could ignite your home or camp. Dead vegetation isn't just limbs that have broken off trees near your house. It could vary from dry, unwatered grass in late summer to unraked leaves in the early fall. In some cases, the mulch used around trees and flower beds can even carry a fire. We strongly recommend avoiding placing mulch near the edge of a deck or stairs that lead to your house. One last thing, don't forget that dead vegetation also includes firewood. Despite the inconvenience, firewood should never be stacked within 30 feet of a structure or within 10 feet of anything flammable.
During the summer of 2010, I was part of a wildland firefighting crew from Maine that helped battle the wildfires in Quebec, Canada. Over the period of 6 weeks, they lost dozens of structures and thousands of acres of forest land to wildfire. Several communities were evacuated due to the wildfires. One community of 1,200 wasn't allowed to return for 10 days. The landscape of Quebec reminds me so much of Maine, and I hope we never have to deal with that much fire and devastation here within the state. While Maine has been fortunate not to have any large wildfires larger than 1,000 acres since the early 1990s, we certainly have the potential to have similar fire weather conditions as they had in Quebec. We have the same types of vegetation and occasional dry periods where conditions become ripe for wildfire. Now's the time to create and maintain your defensible space, not after the wildfires have started. Once the fires have started, you may be evacuated, leaving you no time to remove flammable vegetation that could carry a fire to your home or camp.
One important concept to remember is that when wildfires occur near developed areas, fire departments may not have the manpower to protect every home threatened by a wildfire. In some cases, forest rangers and wildland firefighting crews will be used to protect homes from wildfire. That's why it's critical that homeowners create and maintain defensible space around their homes, especially if they live within the Wildland-Urban Interface.
Investigations of homes that have been threatened by wildfire indicate that homes with effective defensible space are much more likely to survive a wildfire. By eliminating dead fuels, separating pockets of vegetation, and creating defensible space near your home or camp, you can reduce the risk of a wildfire significantly. Defensible space also allows structural or wildland firefighters the ability to effectively and safely defend the home.
If ever you are asked to evacuate your home due to an approaching wildfire, please consider taking the following measures after you have assured the safety of your family and are ready to evacuate. Leave your garden hose so it is accessible by wildland firefighters. They could use it to extinguish small spot fires or refill their backpack tanks. Place a ladder on your roof in an area visible from the road. This could allow firefighters to access your roof to put out airborne firebrands falling from the approaching wildfire. Close all exterior doors and windows to prevent embers from entering the home or radiant heat from igniting curtains and drapes. Turn off any propane or gas appliances.
Maine's forest rangers would like the public to become as informed as possible about the dangers of wildfire. Please become familiar with the predicted class day before you have a campfire, a brush pile, or a debris burn. Also, feel free to contact us about our Firewise Communities USA program so you can learn how to create the defensible space you need to protect your home from a wildfire.